do? You just write shit to make, you just make shit up. My shit was molten. It's f***ing molten, asshole.
Hello friends, my name is Stevie Cade and welcome to Film Trigger. I just recently rewatched a movie that I absolutely love, and I just really wanted to come in here and share my opinions and thoughts about this beautiful piece of cinema. But before we do, if you could hit that like, thumbs up button, that subscribe button, and the little bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. That's how this works. I spend all my time and effort to bring you content, and you just simply like and subscribe and comment, and share, and keep watching other videos. It's a give and take, it really is. Without further ado, let's dive into my review for Chef.
People's lives with what I do, and I love it. And I want to share this with you.
So quite a few years ago, I went to my local grocery store, which has a little, DVD section still, kind of like the whole Blockbuster thing, but very small town. And I came across a movie called Chef. And I'll tell you what, I am so glad that I did. What a beautiful movie. So let's not wait any longer. Let's dive into what I like about this movie. First of all, you have a very star-studded cast, okay? Number one, this was written, directed, produced by, and starring Jon Favreau. And if that name kind of sounds familiar, he's the one that pretty much kicked off the entire MCU by directing the first Iron Man movie. More of this amazing cast consists of Robert Downey Jr., Dustin Hoffman, Scarlett Johansson? I don't know. Johansson, that's it. Oliver Platt, Jon Leguizamo, Sofía Vergara, which all of these actors do an amazing job. Like, I can really clump them up into one thing. They all perform their best. They do a great job with their roles. And none of them stick around for too long. They're kind of extended cameos when they do show up, but a very pivotal part of the story. Which this movie is not only a story of a falling star and a redemption story as well, but it's also a very beautiful story about family and prioritizing what's important to you in your life and rediscovering that. And this movie is not just one note.
The rest of the day, whenever anyone says a secret word, scream real loud!
There are many layers of humility that our main character, Carl Casper, goes through in this film. Jon Favreau just does an excellent job in this movie. You can tell it was definitely a passion project for him because this movie has a lot of heart into it. But that heart has to be earned. First, we have to go through the fall of Carl. You learn that he's compromising his integrity as a chef.
How suddenly you're going to be an artist? Well, be an artist on your own time.
You threatening to fire me now?
No, I'm telling you what I'm prepared to do if you don't cook my menu.
He gets publicly humiliated by a food critic.
Dramatic weight gain can only be explained by the fact that he must be eating all the food sent back to the kitchen.
Then publicly humiliates himself.
You're not getting to me! Okay. You're not getting to me!
Okay, Carl.
He's not getting to me!
No, he's not.
I know, but you're a publicist. Don't you have relationships? Isn't that what you're hired to do, to take things like this off the internet?
Gets called out for not being there for his kid Percy. Gets asked by his ex-wife to pretty much babysit his own kid. And on top of everything else, he has to ask his ex-wife's ex-husband / business partner for a handout.
Talking about a white-on-white 88 Chevy Grumman food truck. It's a blank canvas for your dreams. I'm gonna have him pull it around.
Thank you.
Don't thank me till you see it.
Yes, lots of layers of humility in this movie, which makes for a great foundation to build up on. And that's what this movie does the best. But it's not such like a detrimental fall. I mean, it is, but the comedy plays very well into these moments. It's not just random humor thrown in there just to break up the monotony of the uncomfortable situation that's going on with Casper's life, but more like the drama that he's going through and the comedy that plays out are really kind of blurred together in a very organic way, I feel. And there's lots of times that we, the audience, are both laughing at and with Carl, which is kind of what everyone else is doing in the movie. So you're not just an audience member, but you're almost on the outskirts of the film yourself. You're like an extra in the movie just watching this shit pan out. The movie doesn't put you in a bias to like this, that, or the other. You really understand the full spectrum of what's going on here emotionally. And that full spectrum continues with Carl's development. And like, he has this kind of cockiness about him, like this super confident side of him. But then you see little windows of time where his insecurities start to come through, his vulnerabilities, if you will. He's a lost person in this movie, even though he doesn't think he is. He doesn't want to believe that he's lost, but he is. A very complex study of Carl that I really enjoy about this. But as I said before, this movie's not just one note.
Good screaming, everybody.
We don't just focus on that. There are many other parts of this movie that just add to this building of Carl's character and his subsequent relationship with his son, which we'll dive into here in just a little bit. But before we dive deeper into that, I want to give a shout out to the food in this movie. Oh my God. If you are a foodie like me, if you cook like me, this movie just fills you full of so many ideas. There are actually quite a few dishes from this movie that I make at home because they look so good in this film.
I should have cooked food that I was gonna cook. There are chefs that cook food that they believe in, and people will try because they're open to a new experience and they'll end up liking it.
The chef part of this movie is very inspirational. It's very outstanding. But there are plenty of other artistic elements in this movie that aren't just food, because the soundtrack to this movie is freaking stellar, because this movie is just not one note.
Good screaming, everybody.
Much like the food has soul in it, the soundtrack has a lot of soul into it as well. And it brings that soulfulness by adding many different artistic elements into it. The relationship between Carl and his son, Percy. You could consider this a coming-of-age movie for Percy, but it doesn't necessarily focus on that, and it more focuses on Carl finally realizing the value in teaching Percy and treating him as one of the guys, you know? Like, that's where the heart of this movie really builds.
Dude, I'm putting a little cornstarch on my werewolves, man. It's too humid down here.
Dad, wake up. Punk's putting cornstarch on his balls.
Want some? It's like baby powder. It's nice, right?
Nice.
The relationship between Carl and Percy is really the glue that holds this entire movie together. And that glue is
Family.
no Vin. It's not family. Go ruin your own franchise, buddy. It's heart. And ultimately, their food truck journey is what drives this movie. And that I didn't mean to make that a pun, but it is what it is. Honestly, watching this movie was one of the biggest inspirations for me of making sure that I keep my son involved in some of the interests that we have in common, like Film Trigger, which my son is now a part of Film Trigger. And I'm so glad I have this with my son, even though now he's 18 and, you know, he's just kind of ignores me now.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
I'm kidding. He doesn't ignore me too much. Call me. And one of the last things that I really enjoy about this movie is the message of doing what you love. And that is a very difficult thing for a lot of people to understand how to do. But sometimes you got to go through the hardship of it to get to the other side of that. And I will stand by its message. Go do what you love. Even if you got to start small, you got to walk before you can run. Even with that, never give up your dreams. Never give up who you really are. You can take that to the bank. There's a reason why I keep doing Film Trigger, because I love it. Now let's move along with some of the things I'm on the fence about when it comes to this movie. I think the length of this movie is just a tad bit too long. There are quite a few moments and storylines that could have been shaven down a little bit, specifically with Robert Downey Jr.'s character in this movie. Listen, it's a great cameo. It can be kind of humorous, but honestly, it could have been shaven down by quite a bit. And there are a few other elements like that as well. Even though I praise this movie's depiction of the culinary art, there are a lot of food montages that also could have been shaven down quite a bit as well. But I tell you what, man, food looks freaking delicious. So I hate to put it on the fence, but in storytelling wise, it could definitely be shaven off just a little bit. A few minutes here, a few minutes there, overall runtime, more healthier for it. And speaking about some of these cooking montages, listen, there's no way that you're going to convince me that nobody is noticing the financial waste that's happening here. There's literally a part in this movie where Carl getting excited for the food critic that's going to come to his restaurant that night. And so he completely changes the entire menu. He buys all new materials and he preps it all. And then the actual owner of the restaurant, Riva, which is beautifully played by Dustin Hoffman, by the way, demands that Carl run with the original menu.
Being reviewed by the most important critic in the city.
Let me say this. This is this madness.
You like it?
Yeah.
We're gonna cook like this.
I'm telling you what I'm prepared to do if you don't cook my menu.
From a food Kyle's perspective, that was a very expensive hit. I love the foodie montages, but it's a lot of fucking money. Jon Leguizamo's contributions in this movie are plot driven. I like Jon Leguizamo in this movie. He's a good element. He adds that Latin flair that this movie has quite a bit of, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. But his character just conveniently shows up, decides to work for Carl again, without getting paid on this food truck, and also happens to have a cousin that's a professional paint job on this food truck for free Now we got to rush to the part where the truck looks good and he has all new equipment, a new sound system, and new wheels and all this stuff. They're just handed to him on a silver plate. Just to reiterate, I don't have a problem with John Leguizamo's character. I just have a problem with how conveniently he was used just to get from here to here like that.
Tony, Carl's got a taco truck. For real? I was so jealous. When I heard your voice, I was like, that's what I want to do.
Another thing I'm on the fence about is how quickly the hatchet was buried with the food critic, just played by Oliver Platt. Because essentially he just comes up to him at the end of the movie and just says, hey, you know I said some shit about you, but your food tastes good now. It seems you found your way, and I'm going to back you for a whole new restaurant. Wow, that escalated quickly. Okay. I wish they would have shown him like following the Twitter feed Percy keeps putting out for the food truck, because that's a huge part of this movie is Twitter.
Why don't you come by again tonight? I got a whole new menu just for you, asshole.
Oh, no,
That's not good.
Give me the phone. Give me the phone.
Don't do it. That's out there now, bro.
Happens. Why would you do that?
You can't take that back.
I wish we would have seen the food critic following them on social media a little bit more and something to show me that he has been watching him, because for the most of this movie, you don't see the critic show back up again until the very end of the movie, where he's just like, hey, sorry about everything before, but here's everything you want. A little too convenient, a little glossed over. Now moving right along with what I don't like about this movie, and there's kind of just one real thing that I don't like about this movie, and that is the very unearned and forced concept that Carl and his ex-wife get back together. They pretty much stay away from each other in this movie, and then there's like a few lines of dialogue thrown in here and there, you know, where she accidentally says, I love you to him because she thought she was saying it to their son. Okay, I guess that's all we need. Forget the divorce. Let's get back together because I accidentally said I love you over the phone. Listen, I understand we want the happy ending, but sometimes a happy ending doesn't necessarily mean the couple gets back together. I think a perfect example of this is Mrs. Doubtfire.
Hello!
I highly commend Mrs. Doubtfire for making the decision of the family not getting back together, because sometimes that's just not how it works. So I thought they went for the low-hanging fruit of the couple coming back together, Carl getting his restaurant that he's always wanted, the super happy fun ending just to have a super happy fun ending. It just wasn't earned. It didn't work for me. And every time I watch that part of the movie, I'm just kind of like, why are they back together? This isn't going to last. It's not going to last. I give it 6 months. Overall, this movie just came to me at the right time in my life and had the right subject matter, what I needed to see at that point in time in my life. Helped inspire me to try to build a better relationship with my son, be a little bit more creative in the kitchen. And the movie is just overall just well balanced with humor and some of the heaviness that goes on in this film. As I said before, there are a few plot conveniences, things that are rushed through, glossed over, but it doesn't take me out of this movie at all, except for the very end. I just really enjoy this uplifting film. And for all these reasons, I'm giving this movie an A.
That was wonderful. Bravo. I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
There you have it, guys. My review for Chef. Have you seen this movie before? If not, sorry, this was a spoiler talk. It's the spoiler warning I put at the beginning. Go watch it now. If you have seen it, let me know your thoughts of this movie in the comments below. Did this movie hit you like it hit me? Or does this movie not work for you? And if not, please start that discussion down below as well, because I'd really like to see what didn't work for you in this film. Also, guys, be sure to check out some more of my videos. And as always, stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.
Dad, did you post anything since last night?
You gotta be kidding me.
Wow. You realize how many people have read this?
You're trending, bro.